Have you ever set a financial goal and you said, we're going to grow by this amount of revenue next year or by this percentage? And then at the end of the year, you didn't hit the goal and you're frustrated. And then you repeat the next year and you're frustrated again. I'm going to show you why this happens to every company and why only about 1% of business owners understand this concept. And this concept is the unlock. Let me show you the data in a spreadsheet and you will forever understand what you've got to do to hit your growth targets. Let's have a look. I'm going to show you 2 reasons why you're unable to grow your business, why it has plateaued. It's a lot of data. I'm going to go quick. I need you to also understand that in my example, I'm using 300,000. You're trying to add 300,000 in revenue to the upcoming year. Scale it up, scale it down, depending on the size of your business. Everything I'm going to show you still applies. Also, I'm using a business that provides a service with 33 visits per year. You could be quarterly, you could be monthly, you could be biweekly, doesn't matter. I'm using this because it includes some seasonality, and I need to model that to make a point. I'm using $40 as the price. You could be 100, you could be 400, you could be 20. Doesn't matter. So while the model's not exact to your business, the concept is accurate. All right. I think you get this first part, but I just want to start here to lay this out quickly. If you want to add 300,000 a year in revenue, by the way, if any of this doesn't make sense, please rewind the video because I'm going quick. You want 300,000 revenue. If you model that out in your brain, it's like, okay, I need to perform $25,000 worth of work each month. Very clear. If you're a 9-month a year business, there's seasonality, and you only do 25,000 a month, you're only going to generate 225. You're not going to hit your growth goal. Again, real obvious. If you're a 9-month a year business, to hit 300,000 a year revenue, you actually need to generate 33,000 per month. If you are a seasonal business and a few of the months per year generate a lot of your revenue, you have a few months that generate almost no revenue, the seasonality, and you have a few months that are slow. This could be examples of power washing, lawn mowing, any outdoor service. You can kind of see what this means. So in terms of planning for production of work, and this isn't even my main point yet, you have to think about your numbers in this way. Most companies make a goal and they say, "Oh, I make 1,000 per client. I need 300,000 in extra revenue. That means I need 300 new clients." Won't even get you close to where you've got to go. You need to start by modeling these numbers and say, okay, I actually have to generate, in this example, 40,000 per month. How many clients do I need to sell? When within the year do I need to sell them? And how staffed do I need to be to even produce that much work in one given month? Okay, so this just sets it up. And stick with me. My single most important point is towards the end of this video, and it is critical, and most people don't understand it. All right, let's set this up. You need to drive 300,000 in new revenue to grow your business. In my example, you're doing 33 visits a year. That's going to require 228 clients because, again, the client generates $40 per visit. We're using a seasonal business very intentionally. I'm using a mowing example because it will represent the widest number of clients. Listeners, you might not be seasonal. You might not be a company that only charges $40 per visit. You might not be lawn mowing. It all still applies. All right. So in terms of generating revenue in a mowing business, let's call it in Texas, you'll cut the property twice in March, twice in April, 5 times in April, 4 times in May, and then it slows down towards the end of the year. Okay. So this is how much you'll generate per client. $80 in March because you're only visiting twice, whereas you're visiting weekly in April, so $200. This models the selling of new clients. You sell 19 new clients evenly across the year. That gets you your 228 clients, okay? And so in January, you sell 19. You'll earn the full $1,320 this client is worth because you don't start producing their work until March. Same in February. Any client sold, as long as they don't cancel, you'll get all the revenue for that year. Whereas starting in March, if you sign them up and you miss 1 or 2 visits, let's just say you sign them up at the end of the month, you won't actually earn the full $1,320 for the year that client is worth. And your model is based on selling 228 new clients, each worth $1,320. That's 33 visits times $40 generates $1,320. But look what happens based on when you sell your clients. So as you sell your 19 June clients, you're only going to generate $720. When you sell a client in November that counts towards your 228, you only generate $40. And in this model, you're actually $153,000 short in terms of generating revenue. Let's make it worse. Let's say you're a mowing company, and when do most company clients buy? When the grass starts growing, when the birds start chirping, when the sky is green. Oh, green. I'm looking at trees out my window. When the sky is blue, it reminds them, hey, we've got to get our lawn mowed. Whatever the service offering you offer is, HVAC, plumbing, poop scooping, pool cleaning, there's a thing that triggers your client, your prospect, to need to buy. When is that trigger? Almost every business I just mentioned has some form of seasonality to it. Back to the mowing example, because it's a dramatic one. Most of the clients actually sign up when those factors happen. Spring hits, okay? So let's just say that what really happens is, look at the data here, in a 90-day period, 60% of our sales will happen. So we're going to close 45 clients per month, March, April, and May. We're going to close a few in January, a few in February. We're going to keep closing June all the way through December, but really the majority close in March, April, May. Look at what this does as well to the data. Okay, just think about how much revenue you're going to generate. It's actually better than in the previous model because you've pulled forward a bunch of your sales in this model. So you were selling 19 a month, you've pulled them forward into this month. So now you're only $110,000 short. But if you underperform in selling in these 3 months, you blow your whole year. So that's one takeaway here. Another one is, again, it's called recognition of revenue or the receiving of revenue. When did you actually earn it? And just notice how this impacts your data. So with all that, now here's the first of 2 really big scenarios I'm wanting to show you. The conclusion here is that if you want that 228 clients will not get you there, because what happens is you don't get all 228 clients right here on the 1st of January. Therefore, you don't get to earn the full $1,320 a client is worth in that year. So without explaining all these numbers, the data says you actually need, and you can pause the video and look at this data, you actually need 362 clients, not 228, to get $300,000 in revenue. Now, why is that? Again, it's because of when the clients come in throughout the year and how much of the revenue you actually earn from that client based on when they signed up. And so how many of us, when we're saying, okay, I want to grow my business by 300,000, my client's worth $1,000 a year, I need 300 clients. It's really easy to gloss over that and then optimize for that. Build the business, your marketing, your hiring around that. Whereas the reality is, in my example, you need 134 more clients than the 228 you might think you need, meaning you need 362, meaning in a scenario where you sell a lot of your work in 90 days, look at how many additional clients you have to onboard. 26 in these 3 core months, over and above the 45. So what does that mean? That means you have to be ready to answer the phone. It means you have to be able to turn the estimates fast enough. It means you have to get them signed up and scheduled in your system. It means you have to have enough team members to do the work. It means you have to have enough trucks, enough equipment, enough people to train, etc., etc. Have you done all that it takes behind the scenes to sell 362 clients in my example, when in reality, maybe you were only planning for 228? This is a top reason why companies are perpetually inaccurate in their estimate of what it's going to take to grow their business. All right, now let me show you the one that's even worse than this. It's called attrition, cancellations, churn. So let's talk about this one for a moment. You're $1 million a year business, you lose 18% of your clients. You might say, that's crazy, 18% of my clients, we don't lose that many. You might look at the data. If you're residential, one of the most elementary pieces of data to look at is what percentage of homes turn in your market. In my market, for years, 20% of homes sell per year. Basically, people sell their home every 5 years. With interest rates being higher, with concerns around economy, whatever the scenario might be, there may be more or less homes selling in any given year. But then on top of that, you have people that get divorced, probably drives the sale of a home. You have people that lose their job. You have people that have a kid that's old enough now to, in this example, mow their own lawn. There's a million factors. So the baseline is generally the number of homes sold. So in my example, I'm using 18%. It varies by company. It varies by area within the country. In my example, accomplish $1 million a year in revenue, which is what you are. In this example, you have 758 clients. If you lose 18% of them, you will lose 137 clients. Okay, we're going to lose 137 clients. Real simple model, we're losing 11 per month. That'll equal 137 over the course of the year. Obviously, that's not how it works, but we'll model that out. If you lose 11 in January, you've lost the full revenue of that, not completely, but the majority of the revenue of that client for the year. Whereas if you, very intuitive here, if you lose 11 clients in November, remember the seasonality, we didn't really actually perform much work in November, so you lose only $40, almost nothing. You get the idea. I'm sorry, that their visit was worth, they were worth 40 each, so you lose $457. But you get the idea. So we've lost $88,000 in revenue over the course of the year, because remember, it's not just about we lost 137 clients, let's multiply it by what they're worth per year. It's about when throughout the year did we lose them, how much of the revenue did we capture, and how much of the future revenue, because we lost in this example in June, how much of that future revenue did we not capture? So if we lose them evenly, we lose $88,000 a year due to attrition. We need to sell 107 new clients in this example to replace that 88,000. Let me explain. Remember, our fictitious example here is we lose 11 per month. That's not realistic. We're probably going to lose a bunch of them right here in springtime based on the type of service that we're using as an example. But for simplicity, we're losing them, as I've said, evenly across 12 months. But we've decided we don't really win new clients that same way. Rather, what happens is we will win a few in the winter months, we'll win the majority in spring, and then it will slow down and we'll continue to win clients through the rest of the year. Remember, we earn revenue based on when that client signs up. So because we were losing clients evenly throughout the month, which I understand is not perfectly realistic, but we're winning new clients heavily during spring, we actually don't need a full 137 to earn the 88,000 in revenue. We can do it with 107. All right. So 107 clients will make us the same revenue. And I understand that could be a little confusing. And this number right here illustrates why growth can be difficult. We need 460 new clients to grow 300,000 in revenue. Why? Because we might have said, all we need is 228 clients. A client is worth $1,320. 1,320 divided by 300,000. In new revenue, we need 228. But that's not the story, because remember I showed you, based on when you sell your clients with seasonality and how you earn that revenue, remember, we actually need 134 more. I know I'm throwing a lot at you here, which means we need 362 new clients to grow by 300,000. But then we've got a problem. We lost the 137 clients That was the 18% of our revenue. So before we can even grow the business, we have to first replace all that revenue we lost, the 88,000. So we have to sell 107 clients just to replace the just to get us back to even, back to $1 million business. And then on top of that, we have to sell 362 clients. So we need 469 new clients to grow 300,000 in revenue. So that's the equivalent of growing our business $619,000. Now, why did we not grow $619,000 and we only grew $300,000? Because we replaced the churn and we had to add enough clients, more than necessary, because we didn't get them all on January 1 and get the full realization of their revenue. We sold them throughout the year. So we had to way oversell the number of clients we might have been budgeting for, again, the 228, because the revenue comes in throughout the year and we sell them throughout the year. I sure hope I've been clear in my explanation. So when you're telling yourself, hey, I want to grow my company by 300,000 in revenue. Sorry, I'm scrolling around here. I was looking for an example. But I need to grow my company by 300,000 in revenue. So you might look at that number, and again, you do the math and you say, okay, that's 228 clients. That's not the end of the world. I can do this. This is the real number. In booked revenue, if that doesn't make any sense, that's the value of the client. So in that first year, and so in the calendar year where we're getting the 300,000 in growth, these clients only generate, these new clients we sold only generate 300,000 because we don't get all their revenue that year. We sold them throughout the year. Now, here's the good news. In the following year, we get all their revenue, assuming they don't churn. But we know that 18% of them will churn and we get to play this whole game again. But in terms of getting the growth in the next year, you have to sell way more clients than you probably anticipated. And it feels like you're growing the business, like to grow 619,000 feels like really hard. Could you imagine growing $1 million business 60%? That feels really hard. Well, that's in essence the pain that operations is feeling. You're not recognizing all that revenue for the reasons I've described, but you are doing the work that feels like you are growing the business by 60%. If this doesn't make perfect sense to you, please ask me questions in the comments. I would also encourage you, because I went fast, and I know data is not necessarily fun, I'd encourage you to pause and rewind. And you can just look at the data and think about it. And I think I gave you enough information here that it should make sense if you just pause on the screen and look at it. But I've made a bunch of points here. You have to first overcome your cancellations, your churn, your attrition, just to get back to even. Then you have to do what I described. You have to add enough clients that you will actually earn the 300,000 you said you want to grow, because that revenue comes in at different times of the year. You didn't sell all the clients on January 1. So think about all the sales and marketing. It's way different to spin up sales and marketing to sell 300,000 in revenue than it is to really sell what's equivalent to 619,000 in revenue. Very different game. And that's why growth is so hard. And why most of us say at the beginning of the year, we're going to get X, and at the end of the year, we never get it. And so if you know this is what it really takes, then you adjust your sales and marketing appropriately. You staff operationally. You have the money to buy the trucks and the equipment set aside. You have to think through all those things so that you can actually end up with this outcome, versus just have a feel-good conversation every year around December about what's going to happen next year. But then for most of us, it never actually happens. And the reason it doesn't happen is because this is reality. But we don't see it. We don't see what reality is unless we're looking at the data. Now that you know the data, you can plan accordingly, and you're going to be way more likely to actually get this outcome.